This is Dr. Mike Howarth. I've known him longer than I care to admit. No, that's just a joke, Mike. But we've worked together on a number of different projects, and Mike worked with the BBC for years, and his specialism is to kind of help university students with their writing. And I know that we've got several students, Mike, here that are doing their masters. We're talking about research methods and literature reviews right now, but they're going to be then going into their dissertation projects. And you know, we were thinking maybe you have some tips or some experience about make that process of how to organize your writing and get that going. So I'll stop my sharing. Make your
okay. So
screen bigger.
I've got Thomas Juringfar, if I've got that right, Octavio, Sean or Celine, Nathan Fuzan, I believe, if I've got those pronunciations correctly. Yep. I haven't. So lovely to see you folks. Well, not see you, but I mean, nice if I could see you, but I'm assuming that you're, oh, and Jesse. Oh, that's right, they're already there. So, okay.
Here we go. I'm switching cameras so you can see them a little better.
All right. There's some folk in the room anyway. That's quite nice. Hello there. I can see somebody there. I can see somebody else there. Yeah. We got Jesse. Okay. Yeah, spread round the table. Okay, so if I was with you, I'll start now. Okay, so if I was with you, I would bring some examples of the kinds of things that I would hope would inspire you with your writing and your research. And I can't do that, so I have a rig here which allows me to, you know, give you some pictures of them anyway. And the first thing I'm going to do, well, I've got the list of things I would like to get through. I'm going to talk about sort of the process of research, and then I'm going to talk a little bit about academic writing. Of course, I'd rather just say, what do you want me to talk about? I'd like to know basically what it is that you're having difficulty with, for example, or how we can turn it into something positive. So I'm not sure what the acoustics is in there and the microphones and so on, whether you can you could talk to me, but
yeah, you know, we've got a little Omni mic set up, Mike, yeah, with okay. In the middle of the table for the face-to-face, but we also have the text chat. So if you click on the chat window, usually the students at home aren't too bad about writing in a question. So if they had a question about you know, taking that literature review that they're working on now for the last 6 weeks, and then bringing that into the case study research methods they're writing about next, they could pop a question in there. Yeah. But otherwise, you know, Jesse, you guys in the room here, you know, feel free to speak up to Mike.
With that, somebody would say something about what is their problem at the moment that they'd like some help with.
Go ahead, Jesse. Give us a kickoff here. Like you know, is there a strategy or a tip on how you can get your literature review to put together to a conclusion?
I've got Thomas is doing some writing here. The structure and fitting it within 2,000 words. Yeah.
The word count.
I can answer that. Anything else?
Yeah, the word limit is 2,000, Mike, for the first essay. They can use appendix, and the references don't count by the way, to the 2,000 words.
Sure. Well, I'll answer that, and I can give you some ideas about that. But I wonder whether I could kind of sort of begin. This is what I feel. I think you should get a sense of. You see, that question that Thomas asks gives an impression that there is, there is one solution, and it's all got to be compacted into a certain number of words, and that's fine, okay, because it's supposed to make it kind of easy for you. But the thoughts of the sort of things that I think you might like to take and that sort of look at as an attitude is what it's like just to do research, and what it feels like to be doing this, and the fact you are kind of joining a club of people who do this through their lives. So what does sort of research look like? And of course, what I'd like to do is to sort of give you an overview. Now, in my line of work, in the past, I've had to do research virtually every single day of my life. And in the process of making these, in fact, there were children's geography programs. And I'm taking the sort of metaphor of the helicopter, because I'm going to lift you off the ground and get you to look down on the future. Actually, this is not a very good example. This is some of the photography I did for when there was a great storm in Britain. But I've been in this is St. Lucia. Geographers do looking down on the future, looking down on the world. This is the kind of metaphor that I would like to just use when I'm talking to you. The whole point about research is that you join a club and you're doing certain things. So the way to get to the structure and fitting within 2,000 words is, first of all, if it's not absolutely blinding obvious, you really got to look. You've got to be doing some reading.
Yeah.
And the picking up of the book, the opening of the book, and the starting reading is the very first act you've got to do. And it doesn't matter if it's the right book. It doesn't really matter that you choose the book absolutely, perfectly. But when you go in the library, you've got your kind of keywords, the main themes you're looking at. And the very act of opening a book and starting reading starts you on your process of research. And what do you do when you get a book like this? And in fact, this book it's called Daily Rituals. Now, this book, you don't necessarily actually read yourself, but this is about how most of the famous writers you can think of carried out their work daily. And they're all researching just like you. And they start off in the morning with a cup of coffee, and they pick up something, and then they do things like making notes as well. But one of the things that you might like to think about when you're doing your reading is that you most certainly look at the front of the book first of all, and you write down the author, obviously, and the title, the publisher, and the year it was published. And you make those notes in in different order. Actually, it's author, initial, year, the title, and the publisher. Now, you need to do that because if there's anything in that book that's interesting, you need to be able to come back to it, maybe, and put it into that 2,000 words as a reference. Now, the next thing you do is you look at the end of the book. Look at the conclusion.
Really, right? Mike, you jumped to the conclusion. I didn't know that.
Oh, yeah. Well, yeah. I mean,
okay. That's a good tip. I didn't think of that.
It doesn't mean necessarily it's a conclusion, but it's a summary. Usually, and you will be doing actually this in your last section of that 2,000 words, you'll be making a summary, just like this person is doing here. There's no one way, it says here, to research. That's the comment at the end. You write by sitting down and writing. There's no particular time of place. You suit yourself, your nature, how one works, assuming that you're disciplined, is is all that matters. Okay, so I mean, I just picked that up, but those are some of the key things that you're doing. Some, you whatever's in the book is usually summarized for you conveniently in the conclusion. You might also like to look at, of course, and much probably a bit more logical, is to look at the contents first, and that's probably a bit better. But personally, I look at the end, and then you start to look in at little bits and pages. So, excuse me. So the process of that's just a bit of detail, too much detail maybe, but you have to start by doing something, and it's all about you starting and writing, maybe not asking questions about how many words it's going to be. You've got to get on with the work. Now, the magic that happens when you start writing is that your brain starts working, and it does happen. And it's a great joy to be the physical act of moving forward. I mean, like on the helicopter, you cut the helicopter doesn't go until you push the joystick forward and the helicopter tips. And you will not start until you really get moving, until you start to do that writing. I'm sure you already have. There's another thing about.
So Mike, sorry, just to jump in, because you've got me thinking now about this. So guys, part of what we're looking for in the literature review would be any of the theory. Okay, so if you are researching a particular topic, the example we gave earlier was like user experience. You're looking at the interface design of that web page for your database, that you're studying. Okay. So
Right, yes,
is there a related theory that would go with that topic? And what Mike is saying, I really like that about the table of contents, Mike, because if you look through the table of contents, it could have something in there about theory, and then that's the chapter that you start with, isn't it?
Sure. I would go in there, and I don't know whether people are taking notes here, but obviously this is going to be.
We're recording, so they don't do a lot of notes.
Yeah, but I really am saying note taking actually is quite important. In that notes, certainly the thing that you would be doing at some point, probably very early on, is actually looking at a definition of those keywords. And you mentioned something then, Skip. What was that word you just? The theory
about the theory
of whatever it is. The name of the theory. You look up the definition first, and you would make a note of it. Now, I mean, I have here. These are all my notebooks, and I just pick up one like this. And you might like to do this on your iPad, and of course I'll pick up one, and it just goes on and on and on, just loads of things, and just anything. And I like to write on blank paper, so it's all there. Page numbers of a book that I've read, dates, very important to have a date of where you've been doing your work. And I mean, you don't have to do necessarily very much of this at this stage, but I mean, you are MA students, aren't you? And this is just the beginning. When you start working at a company, they'll send you off to do stuff, and you make notes, and to have something like this. Or actually, what I also use is the notes. The notes function. I don't know, that little icon there, the notes function on an iPhone, PCs, other ones have got similar systems, and there you just have hundreds of pages. That's gone on. There's 1,270 notes on over about 10 years at least, And you make the notes in there. And also, by the way, another thing that's really good is using your voice memo to talk into there, to hear yourself speak about, firstly to record ideas, and certainly to hear your own voice as you explain your subject, what you're wanting to research.
So you're saying voice recording.
Yeah.
Now that's curious. Let me just do a quick survey with the group. Do any of you do voice recording? Okay, so give us a thumbs up if it's yes, or type in if you're at home, type no. Because I'm curious if any of you do that. Do you ever use like voice?
Yeah.
No? How about like if you're sending a text message to someone, do you do voice recording to send the message? No? Not some of you do?
I mean, you see, kind of, you don't have to do
Okay.
it, but it is actually okay.
Note-taking will do
People-
voice text sometimes for like big ones. It's easier to say it than to type it.
Jesse said sometimes it's easier to say it than write it.
Yes, yes. But I think that there is something else that comes with certainly you recording your voice about something else, some of the bits of information, that's kind of like dictation. But if you use this the voice thing, when you're, as it were, kind of presenting to some other imagined person what your ideas are, what your project is, you're kind of coming out of yourself. It's you and of course you don't have to show it to anybody or let anybody see it, but you get a sense of yourself going out into the world, which I think is really quite an important experience. And of course, I've been a broadcaster. You end up having to do this all the time, and either you have a script or you're in the studio, you're surrounded by people. You jolly well pick up a few tips about how to speak, and don't do ums like I just did and things like that. Well, I just wanted to say another. I'm trying to be inspiring. I'm trying to think of all the range of things that work in this creation. Is here in one of my later books. I'm drawing. Now that's because I'm actually drawing stories as a script for a video. But the idea of framing something, can I see that? Can you see that closely? Is that
a little
possible?
bit? Yeah. It looks like a cartoon, like a comic book or something.
Yeah. That's me doing a summary of a broadcast I'm doing. Okay, or a story, certainly like that. But I mean, those could be your main ideas in your dissertation, drawn as just rough sketches.
Okay, so rather than words, you're kind of doing a bit of a storyboard or just sketchy images of the narrative of what the project, where you're going to next with the project. That's interesting.
So I've done the kind of reading, writing, note taking, recording, drawing. There's also the photography, and of course, I mean, in my life, I've got bumps on my shoulder from carrying a big camera bag, and on the other, a huge tape recorder. But now you've got it all in your iPhone. So here you can photograph bits of the book. You can to aid your memory, to almost put some kind of sense, make sense of what you've discovered, and so on. So you can photos. Now, I'm just going to quickly wrap up with the other things. Now, you are down on the coast, aren't you?
Yeah, we're in Southampton at the moment. Yeah.
Oh, you're in Southampton. How far are you from the beach? Or maybe it's the docks, isn't it, down there?
More docks, I think.
Right.
About a mile or so. Yeah.
Yeah.
I used to go to college at my university at Portsmouth, and one of the fantastic things there you could do when you were doing all the same sort of work you were doing. I've been through the mill just like you, exactly the same as you. You go down to the beach or go for a walk somewhere, and you start to think about what you'd like to research, what you'd like to do, what are the different things that you need to do, and then you start to make notes about it. And the act of walking along in a line, possibly with a buddy, so that you're talking, I think that's another idea, is really important. That's what the professionals do, and I can assure you one rather crazy aspect of being a radio producer, which is what I was before doing the video, is that you spend your time in your office walking up and down with a script, speaking out loud.
Okay.
And I could do I want to imitate what it's like? I would be going, and today what we're going to do is we're going to first look at this and then do that and the other, and I'd be up and down reading off the script and then changing the words and rewriting it. Now it's perfectly okay, seems balmy to speak out loud, to walk around, but that's what the professionals do. And the famous story is of Churchill. Churchill used to practice his speeches in his bathroom.
I didn't know that. Okay.
In the mirror, and he look what he did. So I think that's, walking, thinking, dreaming. I want to add that. Music, listening to music. Music does all kinds of really good things. And then finally, my favorite book here, Making Things. Now, I don't know it might not fit in with any of your actual work, but sort of making a model of.
Well, no, actually, as for their dissertation, they're supposed to be producing an artifact. You're working towards like a software example of
thing.
Yeah. It's not from the masters. It's not. I don't believe it's absolutely required, but we want to see the research applied to an artifact.
I remember for undergrad, you needed at least something artifact-wise.
Yeah.
I think mine was a network model.
Yeah. It can be a website. It can be a database. It can be an actual phone app. But what you're doing your literature review on, what you're doing your case study on, that's where you're going to apply it. So that would help to illustrate it. Yeah. Sorry, Mike, go ahead.
What I'm doing, I've got an example of this. I don't know whether you can see here this object.
The blocks. Yeah.
This is the basis for my PhD. This was a creation of turning a radio studio. The big room is the big three-dimensional model here. That's the radio room. This is the control room, and in between, the gap between the two is where the child actually is. I haven't looked at this for a while, but it's full of. It's actually a picture of the way I was making pseudo three-dimensional interactive software for children. So the children is the narrator, the teacher, or some in that way. And with a mouse, they were beginning to manipulate objects in a story space, because that's where the radio studio is. It's a storytelling space, and the magic sits in front of there. So I think there's possibilities there for you to really take that model and draw it, even if you don't actually make a cardboard model. You actually, and somebody said to me that now what's that? The Matrix. You know the Matrix?
Oh yeah.
Film. Somebody said this is the ante-room, and this is where the Oracle lives. The Oracle, the lady in the
Okay.
and here was where all the the acolytes were waiting and making things move in the air and so on. And in here, this is where the what's he called, the key guy talks in that area, in that grey area between the oracle and himself. And
Interesting. Okay.
yeah, anyway, I don't got too much about that. But what we've got here now, all right. So I have what I was thinking of as my inspirational my inspirational section of what I was talking about. I don't know how we're doing for time, but what about actual academic writing? What about key words about this? These are some of my ideas. How different academic writing is to ordinary writing. And my experience actually with my students was that when they started off doing the literature review, they were absolutely compelled in the first instance, when their first draft on the introduction was to explain what their project was about.
Mm.
And I thought this was really interesting. That's not the real introduction. An introduction to a real literature review is about what the literature review is going to look at. Before all of this, in your final paper, you will have an actual introduction which explains what your project is all about. And it does seem to me that you're supposed to do your literature review now, if I'm making myself clear here on this. What you really want to do is to write 2 or 3 paragraphs on what you think your project is going to be about for yourself. Get it off your chest and get a sense of that. But now, when you start the academic writing, you're going to be doing something else. I would guess that in that introduction, you start I. You say, I want to do this, and you've got long sentences, lots of ideas in one sentence. But when it comes to the academic writing, I would ask you to do several things. One of them is to start your sentences with a the. Now, that's what the professionals do, all right? And the next couple of words are what's called the subject, what you are talking about. So the first rule of cybersecurity is something like that. So the key words you want to write about at the beginning of the sentence.
That's so important, Mike, because straight away you know what the subject is going to be, cybersecurity, because you're not waiting to find out about it. It's right there at the beginning. Nice.
Yeah. That becomes the rule for the beginning of a paragraph. The first sentence in that paragraph or section is the key word that's in the title. You might have a heading for that. I said put the subject at the center. Do not use prepositions. This is the other thing. Now this is a preposition here. I'm just going to, I don't know whether you can see this. I know it's a kid's thing here, but picture. But these are prepositions. They are kind of useless words. They don't do anybody any good. And it usually means that if you use words like this at the beginning of a sentence, the main idea is in the middle. And all you do, if you write it first time, you just change your writing. Of course, this is the key thing about writing too, is you write something and you change the sentence around. Virtually, nobody writes the first draft and then leaves it at that. Correcting your English, correcting your sentence structures is absolutely part of the course. But these are prepositions. I prefer I think it'd be a good idea not to use them. And the final thing I think is short sentences. You have just one idea in a sentence. Classic thing, students, 3 or 4 line sentence, 4 or 5 verbs, a whole argument in one sentence. So I used to get my students to write all that, we'd actually look at it down here on the writing, on here, and then I would start to say, oh well, let's take that bit there and put it down there, and so on. So they learned how to basically edit their own writing, and you'd find the preposition at the beginning there, and there in the sentence was the key word. We'd just take all this and stick it over at the end there and put a the in the front, and that is the way that that once the student's seen that, I think you get the hang of it. But anyway, I'm going to stop there, and we can now, if we want to, talk about Thomas's. Was it? Let's scroll up.
Oh, about the 2,000 word limit.
Yeah, the structure and fitting it within 2,000 words.
Yeah, because most of them are saying, Mike, they're doing the first draft. All the bits that you're mentioning, they're experiencing right now about having long sentences and not really focusing on the keywords. But that's the first draft, and it's way over 2,000 words. So we want to trim. Yeah, we want to, what's an easy way to do that?
Well, all of these things, in a sense, I've been saying. You walk up and down, you read it out aloud. You think to yourself, where are the keywords in here? I mean, I was going to say, if somebody had some students and work they're writing now, what we do is and this is what I was doing with my students, is you email it to me, it appears in here, and I start editing it.
Nice.
Now the students
Okay.
with themselves. Once you see it, because it's like it's in a, your writing is actually in a frame there, and in the it sort of stands out. It's like a picture looking much better in a frame. Once you get in there, another thing to do is if you, another trick of the trade is if you get up and look down, stand down and look at your own writing, like the helicopter. You look down, you're taking a different point of view. And this is like putting yourself in the position of the reader. You automatically look at it a different way. And that, I mean, that's a really exciting idea. If I ever wanted to sort of earn something for a good idea, is this business of standing and looking down.
Now, Mike, I'm encouraging them to have a study partner, to take a sample work, draft work that you're doing, talk with someone else in the group, or maybe it's even a family member. What do you think about reading the draft work like a script, reading that out loud to the study partner? Is that a waste of time, or is that useful? What do you think about that?
I think that's good. Of course, there is a difference between, you are not writing spoken English, but reading out what's the content, I think gives you, again, a different point of view. And it's good for the reader, and it's good for, and of course, it is good for the reader, and it is good for the other person. And can I just say, another really significant thing, it's just come to my mind, is that if you do this partnership, this is what happens at Oxford and Cambridge. What Oxford, Cambridge is two people, usually 2 or 3 people, go and see the tutor once a fortnight. All right, the tutor says, okay, so what have you been writing about, Jonathan, whatever? Have a glass of sherry. Hey, read it. Okay, and they read out.
We're not going to give out sherry though here in Southampton, Mike.
they read out their work, a paragraph, and then the tutor says, "Now, what do you mean by that? What do you mean by that?"
Okay.
And they would say, "How could you rewrite that in a different way?" So I don't understand what you're making. I don't think you understand. So the conversation and the discussion about your writing is what you get if you spend all of that money, or it's like a big thing at Oxford and Cambridge, which nobody really kind of thinks is actually important. I mean, it's not the fact that they've got money and they're all very clever, it's the fact you're going through that process. So if two sassy, clever students in your group go through that process, they are replicating top level education.
Okay, nice. We've got about 5 or 10 minutes left. And Mike and I haven't really had a chance to kind of go through, what he's going to be talking about in the script and everything. But just before you came on, Mike, we were using the artificial intelligence tool, ChatGPT, to help us to generate a quiz question. All right. Now, I know you and I have done some conferences in the past, and spoken quite a bit about AI as a tool now available for the students for writing. I wonder if you could share, your ideas about that. Can they do a draft? I'm asking them to use ChatGPT or whatever AI generator they want to use for at least 2 references in their writing. So they're, instead of just using, say, Google Scholar, we're trying to learn how to use an AI tool to help us as a reference as well. So, maybe we could finish off the last 5-10 minutes here with any thoughts you have about that as a tool or a technique.
Well, as long as we understand, as you understand how this AI example is being used. First of all, if you put this is still is what is the current state of the world, as I understand it. A student puts their software, their paper into AI, and the AI reproduces all the words in a slightly different order and jumbles them around. And they're producing essentially an American style essay. Now that's different from the way we do it in this country, where you are referencing content of different books to give evidence for different ideas.
Yeah.
So you can, you can certainly spot an AI essay. It's just a waste of time actually bothering of using it at all, because you can be spotted because there's no argument. There's no sentences which say this, therefore that, and the result is, because it just can't. It just at the moment it can't understand. If you want to give an example of AI doing that in an essay, then that's fine. There may be other information. I mean, to create a question, to generate ideas, that's wonderful. You ask these particular questions and you get all these wonderful answers. But that's different from writing an academic essay.
Okay.
Personally, I think it is best to learn the real way of writing rather than getting someone else to do it for you. It's never going to get there, not for a few years anyway, as far as I know. But then I'm ancient, aren't I?
Yeah, it is changing, it is evolving, but there may be some uses for the AI for us, but not to have it do the first draft for us, right? But as prompting it maybe for like say a reading list. So if you have your topic and you were to ask the AI generator, what are the must-read resources, or who are the key authors for this topic, then that's a different application of the tool, because it's not actually writing the essay for you.
Yeah, I mean, there have been well-known examples where AI has provided references, but the references just don't exist.
Yeah.
So you can a mile away. But
so even if you get the references, you have to check it. Okay.
If you get the AI questions right, so if you said something like, what are the main elements of study of cybercrime, I think that might be quite interesting, but I wouldn't depend on it. But it would certainly.
but that could be one source that you could reference.
I suppose
So you-
if you got
yeah.
the page number and where, or which machine you used and at what time you did it. And so
Yeah,
you-
yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, all right. Interesting. So it's a tool that we can't ignore anymore, but we have to really think about the appropriate way to use it at the moment.
Yeah.
You know, we don't want to be eating soup with a fork.
Yeah.
Right? You know, we want to make sure we use the right tool the right way.
Yeah. Well, okay. I don't know if any students got any other questions at the end of that. I would have loved to have. There's some. I'm sorry, I don't personally. The chat rooms do. I'm not. I'm trying to communicate directly with the students with my voice and everything else.
No, that's
rather-
fine. That's fine. The people at home haven't posted
Yeah.
anything. If there are any questions in the room, we can get the students that is sitting here in the class, we can find out. But I'll post to the people at home. Any questions? So if you have you know, something that you've started writing, and you have a thought about how you want to develop that and share that with us, you can do that. If you have a question about the technique that Mike was talking about or any software, what's that software that you use, Mike, for recording the interviews? Because some of them, with their case study, they might be talking to somebody and making a recording. I forget what it's called.
It's called voice memos. it's that's well. Let me see. I can do it on here. It looks like, and of course, you know, if you oh, there we go. I'm trying to just get the. Can you actually see it on there?
We saw a moment ago. Yeah. Oh,
Yeah,
I see the link in the bottom. Yeah.
Between the date and the time, it's a sort of squiggly, you know, line wave at the bottom.
Oh, no, we don't see that now. We just see your
Okay, let's see if I can.
your home page.
Yeah, it's one of the icons
desktop.
here. Icon which is not very good, but it's down here. Voice memos, it's called anyway.
Okay.
Yeah. So, and of course, what's the exciting thing about
Oh,
this?
now we see it. Now we see it. Yeah.
Is these other recordings is that these will transcribe. You can get these transcribed automatically, which is really quite interesting. Again, it's spoken English, but it will be spoken English. But you can so you can take bits of text out of it and so on to do that. Yeah.
All right. Okay. So because we did do a little exercise where we had a simulation of a kind of murder mystery, and we said, you know, somehow you're going to need to capture the data. So they did some pictures of different elements of the crime scene, and then I was the eyewitness, and so they interviewed me, and some of the students took notes on paper.
Yeah.
But if you are doing an interview as part of your case study process, something like that software would make the transcript directly for you.
It changes the whole thing. I mean, you know, you go to a workplace or something like something like that. You one little tip is when you got the recorder going, and you make sure it's going really well, and you press the red button there and make sure it's going. You see, those are the microphones at the end there. If you put that down on the table like that, flat, like that, the whole table. This is just my ironing board here. The whole table becomes the microphone.
Oh, I didn't know that. Okay.
So you know, you don't have to be that close to somebody. It pays time to be close to somebody, not facing them right ahead, face to face, because you don't have to be looking at someone's face when you're asking the questions. You sit side by side with the microphone, then you pick up. So if it's like that, there you record the questions there, and the person's there, and you're both looking into this area here, if that makes any sense.
Excellent. Okay.
Which I've learned over the years.
Yeah, no, that's really important. So if any of you are doing interviews as a technique, as a tool to collect some data, as part of your case study, that's a really important one. And of course, don't forget, we're always on about ethics and data protection. Like, you have to get consent. You'd have to make sure that
maybe have a form. I mean, even for any research, but you need to get that all signed before. But on the other hand, if you need to come around to submit it or publish it, you then probably can go and check with them again, and if they're happy that and sign a form that they're happy that it's ready for publication.
Yeah, that's worthwhile. Getting the respondent to actually see the transcript. So the software is getting so much better, but I still would recommend that you do an edit. That, when you listen to it and you see the transcript, sometimes it doesn't get one word or two words quite right, or so especially if it's an unusual accent, it may have some trouble.
Yep.
Well, Mike, I think we're pretty much out of time. I don't see any questions from people at home. Guys here, anything?
My only thought was objectives. Like writing down those objectives for your literature review or study.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously making them quantifiable, making them achievable.
Yeah.
But how do you kind of write those objectives for a literature review? Saying
Right. What I think it's right, leaping in there because I'm dead keen. I think there's a difference. It's not often explained to students that aims and objectives are quite different. The aim is the final outcome of what you want to do. The objectives are the way you get there. And the objectives are not sort of to do lots of research or something like that, but the objectives are what questions you might ask to get the final answer, or the aim of the project. So if the aim of the project is, 4 ideas how to stop cybercrime, okay, the objectives would be, something like find out the different methods of attacking cybercrime, like watching that train movie. And then talk to people who have solved a cybercrime or something like that. So does that make it sound? I'm talking to Thomas, am I really?
No. I think that's an important question that Jesse's asking, because
it's Jesse.
Okay. If you're in a situation where your objective isn't measurable, then you're not going to know what kind of data and how you're going to collect that data to answer that question.
Because at the moment, looking at what I have for my literature review, the question, the research questions and the objectives, are kind of what's guiding the reading.
Oh, absolutely.
What you
absolutely.
Read, how you apply that to your question, and whether it answers it, that sort of thing. And I'm struggling for objectives. I've got some questions, some draft questions I'm looking at, kind of going, I could see that being kind of the guide to the review. But objectives to actually list out and go, were these achieved at the end?
Yeah, that's exactly what we want to be able to do. In the conclusion, objective number 1, you map the process of the way you collected the data, whether it's through the literature or your primary research, and then that connects to your conclusion. Yes, my objective was met, or maybe no, actually it was proved wrong, and therefore I need to recommend a future study to change it. So you won't fail if your original hypothesis isn't correct.
Yeah.
I think it's important, isn't it, Skip, though? It's okay to make mistakes. So it's all right if you those things, you do some reading, and then you actually discover there's something more important than those objectives. You can then change it. What you do get for it is extra brownie points, as it were, for explaining that you actually made the changes and so on. You don't have to really prove. You just change from where you thought you'd look at these different areas of the literature review, and then you can actually say that you decided to change it.
Yeah, it's a kind of organic process. It's not when, where you start in the beginning, you're not fixed in that. All right. So as you're going along, even like we mentioned earlier about the title of your project, you can tweak that as you're going along to make sure you get like the things like Mike is saying, the proper keywords, the main vocabulary.
And that is just part of research. Yeah, we could go on for ages, couldn't we? But
no, that's fine. And nothing else, guys? No? You're all right? Okay. In that case, Mike, I guess what we'll do is we'll conclude here. Yeah. Thank you so much. Every time you do this for me, I pick up new tips, and I really like the thing about interviewing that.
Come back. I mean, we could try this thing where, what would be really interesting for my research, if it was possible, is to have one student who was brave enough to have their work looked at, have the conversation with me in front of everybody else, because they would all learn. It wouldn't be embarrassing or anything like that. If I had the writing here on the screen and then started to ask the questions, you would be having an A1 tutorial that you have at Oxford and Cambridge.
Okay, well, I'll leave that open to the students then, okay? Because I didn't know what your schedule was like and everything. But, I'm always telling them that they can send draft work to me. We've got your email address in the PowerPoint slides, in the PDF file. And so we'll open that up to the group to say, if you have a draft of your essay, you can send it to Mike. And remember, now we were also saying that we're encouraging you to reach out to experts in your particular topic as well. So if you were to do a draft literature review, and one of the authors that you're referencing in your literature review, you send an email out to them and say, oh, can you take a look at this and tell me what you think? You never know. But you can also use Mike as an expert as well. If he's giving you some comments, that's another kind of expert review, and that raises the standard of your study.
I could do it, and normally when I was do this with my own students, it's completely private. It's a one-to-one. The student gets the feedback video. That's another important thing. Gets the feedback video, and they go through them back forwards through the video and look at them. What I was saying. And see by pen, and then they start to make changes. But to do it as a group exercise, I haven't done that before. And that would be really
interesting. All right. Well, let's see. Yeah, let's see first of all, if anybody sends you anything, and then how we are time wise. But that sounds like a nice opportunity to do a bit of a peer review. Yeah. All right. Well, why don't we conclude there? Thank you so much, Mike. Once again, a really nice, I think, a little tutorial here, and we'll stay in touch then.
Yeah.
Okay. And